The Epoch Times. A very ominous photo. It's actually a temple looking structure. Chinese temple looking structure. But it's actually a paramilitary officer. It's standing guard in Tiananmen Square in Beijing on March 11th, 2018. This is news of August 2020. The Silent War Against America by the Communist China. Communist China's silent war against America. For decades, CCP has been using unrestricted warfare to weaken the United States from within. Article by Mr. Zhao, 11th Ale. Anyway, stealthily news analysis by Bowen Zio. Stealthily, surreptitiously, and with sweeping precision, the Chinese Communist Party began a decades-long war against America for world domination by utilizing a military strategy known as unrestricted warfare that continues today. Unbeknownst to most of the population, the CCP has infiltrated almost every major avenue of life in the United States, leaving virtually no industry untouched. While this threat has largely existed undetected, the effects it's had on the nation as well as its geopolitical consequences are far-reaching. Skirting the traditional direct military confrontation offensives that have become somewhat outdated in modern times, this unconventional strategy has become central to the communist regime's approach to warfare. The strategy is highlighted in the 1999 book Unrestricted Warfare, authored by two Chinese Air Force colonels, Zhao Liang and Wang Liangshou, and published by the People's Liberation Army, the armed forces of the CCP. I'm already lost because this is about the secret warfare, and now they're talking about a book talking about the strategy of unrestricted warfare. And it's a whole page-long article, which I want to continue next time because I don't have cigarettes or split roll. I'm gonna have to go for the freaking crap roach. Craptastic roach. It's got to go. Get abducted on the spaceship. So they've been trying to weaken the United States, it seems, from within. That's terrible. Reminds me of the Cartman episode, where he saw it in a dream. The Chinese were coming to take over South Park in America with their armies. Music armies and actor armies and dancer armies. that TikTok is a symbol on the next page, where we learn about the strategy from the 1999 book by these two colonels. Anyway, Air Force colonels, published by the Army, the Armed Forces of the CCP. The book, which has been translated into English, is based on the original Army documents. Beijing uses an array of subversive tactics, including but not limited to propaganda warfare, cultural warfare, mimetic warfare, front operations. Mimetic warfare sounds like the slogans of 1984 in Brave New World. Emotional conditioning. Front operations, political infiltration, man, I don't even know what front operations means. Political infiltration. Technological and telecommunications warfare. Heard about that for years. Legal warfare. Economic espionage. Education espionage. Cyber warfare. And sanctions warfare. So economic and education espionage. I think I was involved in that as a worker bee in those departments. Exploitation, infiltration, and espionage are all recurring themes. The CCP employs all of them to varying degrees, simultaneously, in multiple sectors of society, in order to undermine or influence the United States, its main impediment to global domination. While some examples are more obvious, such as China's long history of intellectual property theft and unfair trade practices with the United States, others that use what it calls soft power are harder to detect. One such avenue is its party-backed Confucius institutes that infiltrate and operate on American college campuses in order to boost CCP's image. It also aims to push a foreign policy goal of making the regime not only an economic superpower, but also a cultural one. So trying to take over all areas, obviously. CCP, not just the politics and the economy, but also the culture. It already is an economic superpower, but they want to be the cultural superpower. Profits of the last decade. So anyways, CIs have the Confucius Institutes that infiltrated the campuses have attracted attention from lawmakers, national organizations, and the FBI over allegations that the program undermines academic freedom. So lawmakers, national organizations, and the FBI have been watching these guys for the allegations that the program undermines academic freedom. Definitely something I have said. I guess I've been involved in these areas, so I might parrot these same lines. The CIs have been accused of promoting Chinese communist propaganda under the pretense of promoting the Chinese language and history. Oh, that shows me about the phlegm in the language departments of the colleges. All these little cultural things being pushed. Under the guise of multiculturalism and promoting the poor Chinese culture, history, and language. There are thousands of CIs over the world, and by one count, at least 75 in America. Wow, thousands of CIs over the world. Thousands of these groups, institutes, gangs that infiltrate and operate on the college campuses for the image battles. And they've been promoting the propaganda, communism, for the last few decades at least. Now, other examples of something. Examples of their injustices, I guess. Subversive tactics are more blatant from a former chair of Harvard University's chemistry department. So another example is from a former chair of Harvard University's chemistry department being recently indicted for making false statements about funding he received from China to a Chinese citizen who was found guilty of economic espionage, theft of trade secrets, and conspiracy. Damn. Economic espionage, theft of trade secrets, and conspiracy. Damn, I don't know about these international relations like that. That's crazy. Conspiracy, I heard India, they used to hang people for conspiracy against the state. Damn. In the latter case, a man identified as 41-year-old Hao Zhang was found to have attempted to steal trade secrets from 2 U.S. companies for the benefit of the People's Republic of China, according to the Justice Department. Zhang stole information specifically related to the performance of wireless devices. He was doing wireless industry espionage. And he got caught. He He was fucking with two companies for the benefit of the People's Republic of China. According to the Justice Department, Zhang stole information specifically related to the performance of wireless devices. Economic espionage is a pervasive threat throughout the United States, particularly in the SF Bay Area and Silicon Valley, which is a center of innovation and technology. John F. Barnett, special agent in charge of the San Francisco division of the FBI, Zhang protecting and serving, making a scene. The 1,000 Talents Plan. One of the more widely known. This reminds me of Eric Cartman Snyder. The 1,000 Talents Plan. One of the more widely known CCP talent recruitment or brain gain programs. Talent recruitment or brain gain programs. Wow, cold-blooded terminology. Encourages theft of intellectual property from U.S. institutions, according to the FBI. So that's a strategy, I guess. It's a program, a real practical program, encouraging intellectual property from U.S. institutions by offering competitive salaries, state-of-the-art research facilities, and honorific titles. These programs lure talent from overseas into China, even if that means stealing proprietary information or violating export controls to do so. The Bureau of the Investigations states. So that's half of the article. Not even half of the article. I'll have to come back and analyze it in part 2 better. Back with the Communist China's attack or silent war against America. We learned about a lot of things, like becoming more aware of the details involved in the silent war of the CCP on the USA. Alex Joski. We learned about all the they used and their takeover of the patriarchy and all the different methods, man. An array of subversive tactics, including propaganda warfare, culture warfare, mimetic warfare, front operations, political infiltration. Wow, I gotta look at the front operation. Operation is like a motion. Front is like a fake, right? It's like a fake operation. Sounds like they're saying they're doing something, they're doing the opposite. Political infiltration, technological and telecommunications warfare, techno and telecommunications warfare, legal warfare, economic espionage, education espionage, Maybe that's why I have so many views on my PMS videos. Because they were just trying to learn about the secrets that I knew about the females, cyber warfare, and sanctions warfare. Damn. Intense. FBI Director Christopher Wray testified in 2018 that the Bureau was attempting to view the danger posed by China as not just a whole of government threat, but a whole of society threat on their end. To counter China's strategy effectively, Wray said the United States must also employ a whole-of-society response. To counter China's strategy effectively, U.S., according to the FBI director, must employ a whole-of-society response. So this sounds like the masters using the overlords using the China versus the government to screw the American people. But anyway, that's just what I think from this communique. Walter Lohman, director of the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center, said the United States has treated China's sensitivities carefully, yet has received nothing in return. Ah, man. We have played our part of the international deal, says the director of the white director of the Heritage Foundation's Asian Studies Center, Lohman. That's low, man. Said the United States has treated China's sensitivities carefully. Okay, so, but we have gotten nothing in return. China's aggressive behavior over the last 15 years or so has only gotten worse, despite our best efforts, he told the Epoch Times. China currently poses the biggest threat to the United States because it is powerful across the range of indicators and is directly threatening so many American interests, like our communication networks, like Taiwan, freedom in Hong Kong, and freedom of the seas, he said. Wow, so many different American interests are being negatively affected, supposedly, or threatened by China, because it is powerful across a range of indicators and is directly threatening so many American interests, like our communication networks. Indeed, Facebook is China Central, just like TikTok, I guess, or in a similar direction, perhaps. I don't know. Seems very communistic to me. They got all that blue, but it's red as red dawn, with all these censorships. But anyway, it is directly threatening so many American interests, like our communication networks, like Taiwan, freedom in Hong Kong. So all the enemies of China are being negatively affected by China too, and that's bad for the U.S. That's a funny argument. Or maybe that's just my education getting in the way. And freedom of the seas, indeed. Can't roam the seas freely because these pirates of the Caribbean. Gotta pay the Chinese tax, I guess. Dang. The CCP also has aggressively promoted and pushed its telecommunications companies, such as Huawei, ZTE, and Chinese-owned apps like TikTok and Zoom, into the United States and around the world. So they're everywhere, and doing possible bad things to us in everything. Crazy. Well, Chinese have been in America for the last 60 years, I think. 60 to 80 years. As slaving. The new black. Orange is the new black. Damn. Lawmakers and U.S. officials have begun to realize the national security threats these Chinese companies pose. The Federal Communications Commission in June formally designed Huawei and ZTE as national security threats, thus banning access to money from the FCC's $8.3 billion a year Universal Service Fund to buy or modify any equipment or services provided by the suppliers. Banning access to money from FCC's $8 billion a year USF to buy or modify any equipment or services provided by these suppliers. Yeah, that's what these New World Order critics were talking about. How the FCC is selling the country out. I guess China's keeping those officials happy with the bribes. National security threats. Banning access to money from the FCC's $8 billion a year Universal Service Fund to buy or modify any equipment or services provided by the suppliers. Indeed. So there's serious war going on for the last 15 years or so, which was never on the news. Hence, the people don't know their enemies. One reason behind the decision, as FCC Chairman Ajit Pai notes, is that both companies are closely linked to the CCP and its military apparatus, in that they are broadly subject to Chinese law obligating them to cooperate with the country's intelligence services. So because of Chinese laws, they're causing problems in America possibly, so we gotta fuck them up the butt, it seems. Both companies deny this. Chinese-owned TikTok, which has seen meteoric growth in the United States, also was recently found to be secretly reading users' clipboard data, although the app now claims it has fixed the issue. Wow. So they were spying on personal information, which was thought to be personal. But there are similar concerns about Zoom, as researchers found that encryption keys were being transmitted to servers in China. Wow. So the thing, Zoom is also a spy agency. I believe these apps are freaking companies battling it out in the geopolitical landscape. So anyway, that's not hard to believe. But anyway, while the United States is stepping up its efforts to counter threats from Beijing, The communist regime is simultaneously ramping up its own aggressive endeavors through the CCP's United Front Work Department. This unit coordinates thousands of groups to carry out foreign political influence operations, suppress dissident movements, gather intelligence, and facilitate the transfer of other countries' technology to China, according to a June report by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Foreign political influence operations, suppress dissident movements, gather intelligence, and facilitate the transfer of other countries' technology to China. Sounds like what the feminasty gangsters have done to me in the past. Definitely sounds like a unit doing things. Its political influence initiatives target foreign elites, including politicians and business executives, and are often covert in nature, the report said. Its political influence initiatives target foreign elites, politicians, business executives, and are often covert in nature. Overseas Chinese communities are also key targets, with the party seeking to co-opt and control community groups, business associations, and Chinese language media. Intense far-reaching hands of the red dragon. Claws, rather. No handouts from the commies. What they care about you, you see? So says Alex Jowski, author of the report, said that the United Front's work abroad amounts to an exportation of the CCP's political system. Its efforts undermine social cohesion, exacerbates racial tension, influences politics, harms media integrity, facilitates espionage, and increases unsupervised technology transfer, the report states. So the UF's work abroad amounts to the United Front exportation of the CCP's political system. Its effort undermines social cohesion, exacerbates racial tension, influences politics, harms media integrity, facilitates espionage, and increases unsupervised technology transfer, the report states. With these CCP-backed companies, the regime is attempting to exert its influence over the entire globe, not just the United States. Some major programs backed by the regime that also play into its international ambitions are its Belt and Road Initiative and its Made in China 2025 plan. The CCP, through the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, injected billions of dollars into low-income countries in order to build their infrastructure projects. Sounds like what America used to do, actually. Interesting. GoFundMe or some fund. Since 2013, the initiative has launched more than 2,900 projects, valued at $3.87 trillion. The BRI has been called a debt trap because of Beijing's predatory lending practices, which leave countries vulnerable to China's aggressive influence campaigns. The initiative has launched more than 2,900 projects valued at 4 trillion. The BRI has been called a debt trap because of Beijing's predatory lending practices, which leave countries vulnerable to China's aggressive influence campaign. Oh, right. Debt traps. Over the past 2 decades, China has become a major global lender with outstanding debt exceeding 5.5 trillion in 2019, more than 6% of global gross domestic product, a report by the Institute of International Finance stated. And the CCP's Made in China 2025. That just sounds like some numbers confusion actually. But I'm not an economist. I studied that way back in the day. Anyway, I think I'll return to the next part for the last section of this summary of this article. Oh wait. And the CCP's Made in China 2025 industrial plan, which was rolled out in 2015, seeks to make the country a global competitor in 10 tech sectors by 2025. In late 2018, Beijing also began China Standards 2035 to accelerate efforts to become the leader in burgeoning tech sectors such as big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. Just like we got an Internet of Knowledge and Information, they got an Internet of Things to keep us shackled in while using their bank system, library system of today. Big data, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. Anyway, meanwhile, the little reports and Meanwhile, a report published in March determined that Beijing was exploiting the global CCP virus pandemic, which first broke out in Wuhan, China, to advance its economic goals and fulfill its wider ambitions. Beijing intends to use the global dislocation and downturn to attract foreign investment, to seize strategic market share and resources, especially those that force dependency. The report by Horizon Advisory states, the group reviewed recent policies and notices announced by Chinese central government agencies, regional governments, and research institutes. While a growing number of countries are expressing anger and frustration over Beijing's botched handling of the outbreak, exacerbated by a wide-reaching cover-up Backlash is also mounting against its efforts to brand itself as a global leader in combating the pandemic. This reminds me of Alex Jones, actually. Months before the Wuhan virus, yelling about China training US troops in America. Oh man. And then we saw that. Now this article kind of reveals what he means by all that. All kinds of troops out there in the army of the 12 monkeys. Beijing sent a slew of medical experts and supplies, such as masks and respirators, to countries where they were desperately needed in a bid to improve its image. But the products it delivered often turned out to be defective, leaving countries no choice but to reject the faulty equipment. The Netherlands, Spain, Turkey, Finland, Britain, and Ireland are just some of the countries that received supplies found to be unusable. Authoritative Chinese sources state explicitly that the economic ravages and dislocation that COVID-19 creates give China an opportunity to expand its dominance in global markets and supply chains, both in the real economy and in the virtual domain. The Horizon Advisory Report states, they also stress that the present crisis will allow Beijing to reverse US efforts to protect its systems and those of its allies from China. Interesting article. The ending was kind of confusing to me because I guess my mind's somewhere else. Well, it's a good slap in the face of the communists. Or perhaps a good revelation after the method of how they fucked us and turned us into the USSA. Alright, peace out. This is the end of the article. This is where the article gets a lot of the evidence. If you believe the FBI, the eye in the sky. But now they got NASA and shit. NSA, I mean. Yeah, peace out.